Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's January 11th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And quick look at our daily chart. You can see that we continued higher today. We pushed right on through that resistance. We found a little resistance there early this morning, went sideways for a while, then pushed on through and closed higher. Most of this biggest part of this move was kind of after 2:30 today. But if we look for a measured move based on the width of this range, we're looking for a target in here, and that gets us up close into the oversold territory. Um, we could be headed back to this trend line. We may get a break of this trend line this time. Uh, who knows? We'll just have to see. But it looks like we're definitely going higher for now. So, uh, two pretty strong bullish closing days in a row would lead me to believe that we got some momentum going here for at least another leg up. I didn't quite look at what a measured leg would look like. Let's look at that. That kind of gets us in that same target range there. So we'll see what comes from this. Obviously, we didn't meet the one going down. It could be that we end up measuring it from here or something, or here. Who knows? We'll just have to see. We'll take that one off for now because it's really, we're still going higher at this point. So that's what we're looking at. If you go to the regular chart, you'll see we've got two legs up to a measured move, and then we went higher after the close. I shouldn't say after the close, after the 2:30 hour, we pushed even higher. So let's flip over to that chart. We'll take a look. Not a lot of trades today. There's a few there. But let's flip over there and take a look. And here we go. And you can see this area right across here where I've got my line going across. That's where the resistance was on the daily chart. And you can see it took a little while. We actually had a failed break lower out of this pink range that took us on higher. That's what they'll do a lot of times. They'll fail it out one side and get the momentum rolling and take it straight on through when they can't get through this type of resistance. And the same thing on support. They may not can get it through and they'll let it trade out the top. It'll fail and then run down and run through. Once we got up here, we just went into another pink range, but we eventually pushed out of it. Notice how we came back and tested it a couple of times, and you can see most of this late afternoon rally came well after 2:30. So that's what we're looking at. You can see there's some trades here early on, not much after about 10:30. I think I marked a couple of green ones, so it's not going to take long to get through this chart lesson today. This stuff is hard to trade when you're just chopping up and down and there's no consistent lows or consistent highs. It's just hard to trade. I mean, we do have some little trends in here, but we just don't get many setups. And so take what the market will give you and don't press it and don't push trades. And the difference between a break-even trader or a losing trader and a winning trader is really discipline in a lot of cases. Definitely between a break-even. You get people that get to break-even and they just that's a feat, believe it or not, because most people can't even get to break even. So if you can get to break even though it doesn't feel that good at first, it's a momentum. It's a momentous turning point because it shows that you're capable of reading the chart pretty good and picking the right trades. And from there, it's usually just mental and discipline. So keep working on it. But let's take a look at the trades here and wrap this day up. So 7 o'clock comes on this little push up here, and then we pull back and bounce again off that midline. That's just a first entry. There's some resistance there. I don't see how you can go long there, but notice how we push up. We come back, we get a first entry. We come back, we get a second entry. And look at that nice. It actually traded lower first and turned. And you might even trade that on the engulfing bar. I'd probably wait for this to close. And when it breaks higher there, go with it. It's a little concerning. Let me zoom in here. I would prefer not to see that red bar with a matching high because it shows it's struggling a little bit to go higher. But I still like when it breaks higher there. I liked entering on the engulfing because that's really when the second entry triggered. But you could still enter here and go higher. And you can see it takes a little while, but it pushes on up. Never really takes a lot of heat or anything, but pushes on up. And then we pull back. And if you don't like that trade, wait a few minutes and you get a second entry right off the key entry point. Clearly see this trend line coming up through here, and we bounce right off of it. Nice signal bar. Room back to the EMA so you can get out even if you get a little resistance there and back up again. And unfortunately, you don't get another chance to enter this one. And it moves on up sideways, takes another leg up. It's tempting to go short there, but there's no break of this trend line yet. Nothing going on here. You just can't short that. Now, when you get the failed second entry long, technically it was a failure right here, but that still looks like two legs up. Or I'm sorry, it still looks like a second leg up. There's just two swings in that leg. This is a new high, so first entry, second entry. This is a little bit sideways too, so this is almost like a failed breakout. The key here is this signal bar is not good enough for a short unless there's a trap, but I still believe if it breaks lower there, it's going to act like a trap, and you can see that it did. Didn't get much more than that, but it was a quick, easy trap. So maybe you take that one. I marked it green. You're expecting a retest to the low on this khaki color, but this here again, I talked about this yesterday, and this is what you have to be concerned about. We're still looking for a retest of the high here as well on the blue, and now we're looking for one on the green, on the khaki down too. So are we going to go lower first or higher first? It depends on how strong the market is. It depends on how strong the move at the currently is. But you're getting multiple swings higher and lower here, so we're definitely in a downtrend. We'll probably make this low first and then reverse. And you can see it even took a little while to reverse still. You might say, hey, there's a triple test here, but we're still below the EMA. We haven't even broke through yet. We haven't even got back to the EMA yet there. So I don't like going long there. It's tempting, but that could really trip you up. There's a high or low here, but guess what? It's right in the middle of the, it's right into the actual midline of that range. And look how many times we'd already failed. So again, and notice we didn't get back to the high, even though it broke through it turns back down again. So that's a little concerning. But notice we run down, and we look how many times we tried to go lower there, and we get a little failed break lower than a high or low. I like going long on that one. And notice how each swing high, these swing highs are much higher than these were. So, and we're expecting to make a new high here, and we would expect prices to try to go up here as well and test the upper side since we just bounced so many times off the lows, and it does. You could say there's a reversal here, but you don't really look for that in a range. I don't think you can play that. It looks too congested as well. Notice how all three of these bars are inside for the most part of that big bullish bar. That's not a good sign. Just sit tight. And of course it does turn down right off the highs, comes down, we get a little failed breakout, comes back in. Looks like it may go higher. We do get a break of the green and a new high, but we're still looking for a retest of the low on this one. Sometimes you won't make them in these ranges. So, but in this case, we still get a low. But here's the thing, when you're coming up here, I would let this one play out, especially I wouldn't want to go short into these lows anyway. So, but when it pushes down and when you get this trap here, once that closed that bearish, I wouldn't trade the engulfing bar here. Once that closed that bearish, you may take that short. Again, I marked it green, but that's really bearish. I guarantee it traps some longs right there. There's probably somebody watching that went long right there. And they're going to run those stops, and they're probably going to run the stops of anybody that got long here. And that's what they do, and then suddenly it reverses and goes the other way. So these can be nice. You may not get a big runner on trades like these, and you may not even try to get a runner on these, but you'll get some quick, easy scalps because you can see how that just rocked. Once that turned and broke lower below that bar right there, the longs knew they were in trouble, and they all had to jump ship real quick. And when it turned down again, they ran another group of them out. And before it started the buying came back again. So one thing I always tell people, they ask about these traps. A lot of times people will say, I thought this was a trap and I had a loser. What happened? Well, the key is they're trying to fool you. They're trying to trap people. And so anytime you think you see a trap, ask yourself, now, am I really the smart one here that's seeing all this and everybody else is going to miss it? Or am I the one, or am I the patsy at the table that's going to get trapped? And so be real careful. But if you think there's a trap, and obviously when that bar ended that bad, I mean, when that breaks higher like that and turns down instantly after it had bounced upwards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars in a row, they got them. And there's a good chance you're going to make some money there. Again, you may not want to try to get a runner or anything there, although if you'd have traded that as the engulfing bar, I mean, you could see there's a 6, almost 7 point move there. So you could get a little runner, but generally I just try to get my scalp out of these. And when it's going sideways like this, I'm not trying real hard for a runner. No reason to buy down here. You might have looked at this. Notice there's I thought it broke lower here twice. Actually, it doesn't break lower but once, but it still looks like 3 pushes up. This just looks so sideways, so it really looks like 2 legs up. So I didn't mark it. Plus, you had to get long right back into this support resistance, and it may act as resistance and go lower. So that's the concern, and it ends up going straight on through, but you don't know that ahead of time, and you got to be careful. That's where all the magic happens, at the support and resistance. And so if it's just switching and it's in, like here where it came through, and then you're on one side and you don't know which side's going to win out yet. So you got to be real careful with it. And you want to see like a double or triple test or something like that. And so what you hope is it pushes through here and tests this a couple of times and gives you a good setup to go long. Well, it doesn't happen here, but it happens up here. Pushes through here and it comes back and tests this, and then look what happens. It bounces right off. You got the EMA. You got this support across here. You got a trend line. You got 3 different support levels right there at your back on a double bottom. And so I like going long there. Maybe you'll get a higher low or even a reversal. And you might argue that there's a reversal here. Notice there's a new low, first entry, second entry. But you don't want to get long, right? Again, there's that support and resistance, and you just can't get long right into it. If there's room to get out there, maybe you take that trade, but I don't like it. And you see it found resistance. It ends up pushing through, but sometimes it doesn't, and you can't take that chance. So let's drag this down a little bit. It does push through, and notice it comes back and you get like a triple test right there. If that would have been a good signal bar, I'd go long right there. But notice you end up getting an inside bar, and you can't go long there. It's a shame. It sets up for us, but then you don't get the trigger. And what will happen is weak traders will still take this trade every time because they waited on it and read it and saw it and read it right, but then they don't get the signal, and it'll break higher and fail on them. But they'll take it every time. This time it worked, but I promise you, if you go against the rules more times than not, you'll get burned. So, but what'll happen is people will see that setup and they'll say, I knew I should have taken that. I talked myself out of it. The next time they'll take it, and guess what? The next 3 or 4 times they take it, they remember when they didn't take it, and they say, I'm going to take it this time. And guess what'll happen the next 3 or 4 times? It'll fail on them every time. So if you skip this trade because it didn't set up properly, you did the right thing. Anytime you miss a trade, but you followed the rules and did the right thing, don't look back at those trades. You did the right thing. And there's nothing better than doing the right thing if you want to be a winning trader. And that's what I'm talking about. The difference between a break-even guy and a winner is the winner is going to be disciplined. He's going to not take that trade. He's not going to look back and think about what could have been, might have been. He's going to say, hey, I followed the rules. There wasn't a setup. It didn't fit the rules. I didn't take it. Even though I know I wanted to and thought it might work, I didn't take it. And so I can't look back and say, oh, look, I wish I'd have taken it. Because I'm telling you, the next time, you'll wish you hadn't have taken it. We run up here pretty much. At this point, this doesn't really look like, this is just a retest of the high, and then it sells off. But there's no good short opportunity right there. This looked like we were going to get a second entry, and it doesn't break lower. So, and then it runs higher, and then we run into resistance again. But notice the green channel coming up. You get a break, move to a new high. That far away from the EMA, you're probably just going to, as long as you can get your 4 ticks in there in that little range, take that trade. And that's what I mean by 4 ticks in there. So you might have to let it break lower and drop a limit order a little closer, and you could have got filled way back up here. But anyway, maybe you take that trade. We're just chopping around the middle here. I did like this one because you got the break, new low, and again, it makes a double bottom, and then you get a higher low that breaks lower and turns up. And this looked a lot like there was another one somewhere that we had earlier. I don't really want to spend a lot of time going back and looking for it. But anyway, I wouldn't trade the engulfing bar, but if it breaks above this bar, we're probably headed to the highs, back to test these highs. And so I like that one. And then we work up, we get a break, a few moves to a new high, but there's just nothing in there that I would trade. You can't go long into this resistance again. You want to see it tested a couple of times. It did test it a couple of times right here, but this closed below. It's kind of a neutral bar, and it looks like congestion right there. Maybe you get a higher low that looks better, but you don't really get one. And it's just so late in the day. And so nothing there that I would trade. And that takes us into 230. So there just weren't a lot of trades today. I mean, this was a pretty good move up, but there's just not a lot of clear, concise trades that were worth risking. So there's another look at it. Yeah. And this is generally my consensus is the morning's always the better trading. Every once in a while you'll get a really good afternoon, but for the most part, it's the mornings, and that's where you're going to get your best opportunities and the most opportunities. And then but sometimes every once in a while you'll get a really good afternoon, but I just didn't see it today. There was a chance maybe to get long here that we talked about, but you didn't get the setup. You got a higher low here, those signal bar, which you're really looking for prices to come lower here. If you got the trap here on the failed second entry and it turned up, that would have been another good trade, but it just didn't materialize. And sometimes that's the way it works. But anyway, we had a long video yesterday, so I'm going to keep this one short today. I'm going to wrap it up, get out of here. We'll be back again tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday already. We'll be wrapping up our week. Man, time just flies. We're already halfway through January. I don't know where the time goes, but it just flies by. When you're busy and having fun, time just seems to cruise on by. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again tomorrow, wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.